Here we go.
Get ready, get set for the best movie and pop culture talk in the universe. It's the Good Brothers on Mercado Airwaves with your hosts, Alex Mercado and Mike Mercado.
I'm Alex, that's Mike. We are the Good Brothers, the best brothers. We are the highwaymen from LA to New York. We're here to talk everything in the world pop culture related. Say hi to the folks, Mike.
Hi, folks. Mike, good brother. How you doing, man? Long time no talk.
It's almost been like a week.
Yeah, give or take, and there's been a lot of stuff that has happened in between, good brother. We have ourselves a Royal Rumble we need to review. We have a crazy episode of Wandavision and so many other things. But before we get to today's episode, good brother, we need to talk about some celebrities, some icons, and some figures in their own right who we lost over the last week since the last time we talked to each other. Dustin Diamond, dead at 44 due to cancer, and Christopher Plummer, legendary Sound of Music star, dead at 91. Obviously, two different pedigrees when it comes to their impact in pop culture and in the medium, but nonetheless, losing a 44-year-old and then losing someone who, at 91, you losing someone with so much knowledge and so much history behind them. It's sad whenever you see life being lost, and then with some that are so impactful. And in the case of Dustin, where you hear that it could have been prevented if he'd gone to the doctors, and it's just sad all around. So any thoughts on losing Christopher and Dustin over the last few weeks?
And because both very sad, but both very different, where you have a Christopher Plummer who reminds me of Miss Tyson, where she lived a great life. You know, if you can live to your 90s, that's beautiful. So much legacy. I know for me, Christopher Plummer was just in Knives Out last year, which is one of my favorite movies of the year. Sound of Music is a beautiful movie you watch like 10 times in school. So that's a sad one. But when you go to Dustin Diamond, you and me are huge Saved by the Bell fans, 6 to 7 every morning on TBS. You'd get those. And on Friday, you'd get the college years. We grew up on that. Screech is an icon of that generation of comedian. And I think Mario Lopez said it best, where he was just starting to kind of get his ish together and reconnect and, you know, kind of get back into the real world and comedy. And he was so ahead of his time for the face show and physical humor he was doing was years ahead of where it should have been. So it's really sad to see that. It's really sad that right at the peak where he was really mending some fences, and, you know, they announced that he was going to be in season 2 of Saved by the Bell, the reboot. So that's a really sad one for a very different reason. I find it interesting that as much as Christopher Plummer was that A-star actor, Dustin Diamond will always be known for being Dustin Diamond, and not only Screech, but the drama that, you know, he was on every headline for a couple of years there back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the celebrities from that reality television era that was the dominant thing on television, that the dominant entities on your TV screen. So yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, for different reasons, they were both impactful. And, you know, it's the same thing that happens in music, video games, and all walks of life, where there's levels to it, there's different importance to it, but at the end of it, both impacted their field. And whenever somebody leaves us, it's always sad. And like you said, there was fences being mended for Dustin Diamond, and, you know, for you and I, like you mentioned, like, we're all about Saved by the Bell. Bayside is the high school we never went to, and it's sad because he's so young. I'm 30. The idea of 14 years only left on this planet really it hits home when you're like, that's nothing. Like 14 years, you can do so much, and so much can happen. But when you're 44, you still think you have. You're in the golden age of your life. You're in the best times of your life. And for somebody like him who still had so much work that could be done, he's never going to be an A-lister, you know, obviously. And he knew that. We all knew there's something wrong with that. Imagine having Dustin Diamond having a nice career and mending fences and finding his religion, and I think that's what's really sad about it. And then when you lose someone like Christopher Plummer, it's obviously just a legend in it. So I'm with you, good brother. Different reasons, different things, but I think it was important to start today's show because at the end of it, these are people, and they have their own emotions and they have their own journeys, and we cover a lot of the work that they do. So it's important to acknowledge, even if from the A-list to the reality A-list, you got to mention and show some respect to those who have helped pave the way. So, good brother, it always sucks to start off the last few shows with passings of people in the industry, but it's life, my friend. Moving on, good brother, let's get to some fun. You and I had an exchange on social media. I'm on Twitter at Mike and Media. The good brother's on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. And you and I disagreed about episode 5 of WandaVision. So go on social media and you guys can see the exchange happen. We're going to talk about the episode in total. What I want the good brother to kind of explain himself and what he was thinking from that tweet to his next tweet, that after watching a second viewing, just interested to see kind of what was the roller coaster for you through that. So before we get to that, for my opinion, love the episode. I like the mixture of the WandaVision meeting the MCU, kind of intertwining together. I like that they're going for it. I like that they're not really holding anything back anymore. So I was all in on this episode. I like the momentum. What were you going through on this emotional roller coaster this morning for you?
I watched it when it premiered last night, and then I watched it again this morning when I was working out. When I first watched it, I hate when episodes set up a Luke Skywalker caliber thing, because that's all you're expecting the whole episode. And when it doesn't deliver, you start being real cynical. And I think I was being very cynical. Because when I watched it the second time, I really was like, man, but I do like this episode because I do appreciate the way they're really, bringing Vision into his own character. And he's becoming this very sympathetic character as, a machine. And that's kind of cool to really see that development. And I love Elizabeth Olsen. I think she's really hitting some new levels. The little kids are cute. We're starting to get more. I told you last week, I'm enjoying more of the sword stuff than I am the actual WandaVision stuff. I think the ending was really lackluster. It was fine. No offense. Like, we knew Evan Peters was in this a year ago. You and me are in this industry. We knew this was coming. So to hype it up as like something random was going to happen, like, I thought, okay, we'll get Wolverine minimum. Like, we'll get a Hugh Jackman or maybe a Doctor Strange, and we'll probably get that eventually. But to hype up this episode really let me down. But upon second viewing, I was able to appreciate it as, no, this was a really good episode. I'd say the second best episode of the season. But I still, does the ending always excuse the beginning? I'm not sure. Do we excuse Fantastic Four for having a really good hour? No, because we got mad that the second hour was bad. So sometimes I feel like with the MCU, we're very fast to be like, mediocrity is fine. The things we don't like in other properties, we like with the MCU. So that's where I come from in that, and I still stand by that.
So me personally, I didn't think this was the big surprise. I know a lot of people were hyping up this episode, but nobody ever said that episode 5 was the one where Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen were talking about. And I think a lot of people who knew the casting of Evan Peters was a real thing, nobody knew they were quite going to go in this direction. Hell, I'll be honest with you, because there's no reports out there confirming that he was going to come back who we thought he was going to come back as. We all just kind of assumed so. I was actually kind of under the impression that just to make sure that we all knew that the X-Men were not going to be the X-Men that we knew from those movies into this one, was they were going to cast them as just somebody completely different. And the fact that they did go the direction they did, and the fact that they do have Kat Dennings even mention it right away, I think was worth it. I think it was really well executed. And I do think something really kind of interesting happen is we wanted to see the actual original Pietro, and we don't. It's interesting that they make you kind of sympathize with Johnson, with Taylor. So I'm like, I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think they I'm interested in what you think about the recasting, is what I'm kind of getting at.
Yes, I think it's opening up the multiverse. It's not a recasting thing. I think they both exist in the same universe, but in different multiverses.
I see where you're coming from, but
because the body is dead of Pietro, that they had to go, whoever's running this, which I think is the funny actress that's playing her friend.
Kathryn Hahn.
I don't know why I can't. Yeah, Kathryn Hahn, thank you. She's in charge. I think she's the main bad guy, and we're doing the whole devil thing, and that's fine. I think this is going to show you that, like, well, we can't bring the dead back to life, but we can go to a different universe and grab your brother, who's also Pietro and Quicksilver. You know what I mean? So I think this is how we're going to get the multiverse. This show is going to set up Doctor Strange and Spider-Man.
Well, and that's why I do think that this wasn't the surprise everybody's talking about. I think the surprise everybody's talking about is probably either James McAvoy or a old Magneto. Like Ian McKellen. Like, I think that's where we're heading to. I don't think this was supposed to be the surprise. I think this was one of those things. It was kind of like we knew all along Wanda was the bad guy. This was one of those, we knew that if he was going to be anybody, it was going to be Quicksilver. What I was surprised for is how much they leaned into Aaron Taylor Johnson and then, did the swerve on us. That's what I find surprising.
It's multiverse and not just, oh, we recast him. No, like there's different universes and we're going to explore that. And again, maybe I'm cynical and maybe it's because I already know that's where we're going. Like, I know we're going to get a huge thing. And this is probably going to introduce mutants and multiverses. It's probably going to set up a bunch of movies. But maybe it's because I already know that I'm not shocked or surprised. And I'm hoping they get me like in Mandalorian. We knew all those spoilers about Boba and this. But we didn't see Luke coming because they buried that deep. So I'm hoping we have one of those.
Yeah, and I actually really enjoyed this episode. Beyond anything else, I love the Vision episode. I love that he's figuring it out. I love that they are establishing that Elizabeth Olsen, who's doing a fantastic job, is the bad guy. And it's not just she's the bad guy. They're showing you that the people that are cast in her reality, are suffering. So it's not just that she's the bad guy. She's knowingly doing it while they're suffering. And that's even scarier.
I think she's under control, honestly. We're going to find out. And I also think I had this theory and Campia put it out there too, but I also was thinking the same thing but everything going on with Sword also is part of the show.
That's so interesting.
Very meta, very fast.
Maybe. I mean, I'm all in for it. So I think I've enjoyed the ride. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But I really like this episode. I was really, really intrigued when your tweets came out. So it's nice to see where you were coming from. But I do think that they hit it at all levels. And I even think the surprise showing of Quicksilver that wasn't a surprise really hit the home run, especially since Evan Peters is so charming that it worked for me.
The word is, it's fine. I only get mad, and I know it's no one's fault, but the MCU fan base is so fickle when it comes to, we won't forgive Star Wars, DC, but Marvel can do whatever they want and we're going to be fine. So I don't enjoy it. I think, this is fine. I think they're throwing big shocks at you, but that's all they're throwing at you sometimes.
Well, we'll see how the bounce back is at WandaVision episode 6, and we'll have our full review next week here on The Good Brothers. Good brother, before we get to the Royal Rumble, you have a review for us of The Little Things. I tried watching this movie 2 different times, and both times HBO Max kept buffering. So I have not yet seen this Academy Award heavy acting, magnificent, triumphant thing in movies because the app won't work. But you got a chance to see it, so your thoughts?
Yes, it's obviously Denzel Washington, Jared Leto, and Rami Malek. It's Denzel plays a small-town sheriff, ex-detective. Rami Malek is the current detective that basically took his role. And Jared Leto's a creepy suspect. And it really runs like a really mediocre episode of Law & Order or CSI where there's not a lot of shock. There's not a lot of surprise. I get the vibe they were trying to go for was very Seven in the 90s because this script is from the 90s. The script is 30 years old, and it went through so many iterations and stars that you can definitely tell this movie is aged badly. This script made more sense back then, but we've had 30 years of thrillers to really set the bar even higher. And I think that's where this movie suffers. It's almost a character piece of the 90s where, man, some things did work back then and some things haven't aged well. And we have better versions of this now. And it's very much higher accessibility now with these kind of cases. And I think it has a really good ending 20 minutes. And it really shows why these actors are who they are, because they definitely save it from me feeling I wasted my time. But it's definitely it's a January movie. It's what it feels like. It feels like if we had gone to the theater, we'd be like, yep, that's why you don't go to the theater in January. You're going to get mediocrity. You're going to get fined, even with a star-studded cast. So I was very let down. It's very long. It drags out in the middle. It's about, if you're going to be a 90s film, be an hour and 30 minutes. You don't have to be 2 hours if you're going to run that type of scenario. So I was very let down. The acting's pretty good. Denzel's obviously, I think, leads this cast. Robbie Malek is hitting that area of, man, he really is just Freddie Mercury without the mustache. So I don't know. Robbie Malek is going to be an interesting spot after this Oscar win. This wasn't the best thing to come out with, I think, to show his acting chops. But again, I don't think this is that movie. This movie is definitely a 90s crime thriller. You definitely would see a very cut trailer for this type of film. And I think at the time it would have done well. But to today's standards, it doesn't hold up. So I gave it a 6.5 out of 10.
And how was Jared Leto?
He's good. He plays creepy very well. The character itself is just very outdated. And again, the last 20 minutes almost makes it worth it, but you still sit there being like, man, that was 2 hours? That was a long 2 hours to get there. Like, we could have done that in an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's a little disappointing here, but hopefully I could get HBO to show me this freaking movie that I want to see. So just so I can see what happens when you put these 3 Oscar winners together in a movie that seems to be very dated. So not the happiest to start 2021, Good Brother, but that's just one of hopefully many movies that we get to see this year. Good Brother, are you ready to rumble? Because on this day we see clearly as Bianca Belair and Edge are the establishment of WrestleMania season. They are your Royal Rumble winners. We'll start off with the one we both got correct. Bianca Belair. I think her and Rhea look like stars. They not just wrestling stars, they look like stars. So shout out to WWE for getting that right.
I'm glad we both had her as our dark horse, so that was really fun to get right. I love Bianca Belair. I think she had a great showing the year before. She's kind of on a Roman Reigns path where the year before he had a bunch of eliminations, barely got eliminated. And then this year to see him triumph was really what we wanted. And so it's the same situation with Bianca. So I really enjoyed it. I thought the Women's Royal Rumble was very well done, especially toward the end.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it was the most technically savvy in the sense of like it seemed to just kind of get slow in the middle of it. But I think the highs were really high. I think every person that showed up in that match did the best that they could. And I think WWE hit another gear when they got to like that last final few. And I can almost say the same thing for the men. I think the men had really high points. And then when they hit that next gear, that's when they turned it on to the next level. And we can kind of go to that sense because I think the men's Royal Rumble, while I had Brock and you had Seth Rollins as a dark horse and people were talking about Daniel Bryan, I mean, it was right in front of us that number 1 was going to be Edge. Number 2 was Randy Orton. You know what? I get WWE. People were saying, why would WWE spoil it? You know, my counter to Ryan Satin when he said, why do people complain? People watch Collider and this show to know the insights, but they don't want to know who got dusted from Infinity War. They just want to know, okay, Thanos is in the movie. Like, there's a certain, like, anticipation, like, well, who is number 1? Who is number 2? But with that in mind, as soon as we heard number 1 was Edge, I mean, it kind of was right in front of our face. And sure enough, the Rated R Superstar is back and going to make WrestleMania. I mean, I think it was brilliant.
I thought it was even great. Like, Edge is so good that you forgive a lot of that stuff. Like, I think if this is anyone else, you don't forgive it. But the fact that it's Edge and he's still shooting on such a high cylinder really shows. Like, he's at an all-time high right now. Physically, his work is great. His promos are great. He's giving rubs left and right. His moment with Christian. He can realistically go after the Raw and SmackDown and really feel like it's going to mean something. I personally think he'll go after Roman Reigns. Yeah. I think that's the rivalry you do. And I think that's the bigger numbers. But I could see him also being heel to Drew McIntyre. So either way it works. I'm shocked that they did it. But like you said, it was right in front of us, so we shouldn't have been shocked. And I agree. The Rumbles themselves were good. I think let's count 5 years. Let's say in the last 5 years, we've definitely hit our upstride with Rumbles because you and me were around for those early 2010 Rumbles where they were really just not doing it. Mm-hmm. And really the winners were it wasn't exciting.
It was just whatever.
And the last 5 years, they've really kind of picked it back up. And this one maybe didn't raise the bar, but it definitely maintained the bar.
Yeah. This
wasn't Drew McIntyre winning or Shinsuke, or even Seth Rollins, or Becky Lynch. When Becky Lynch won that really good Royal Rumble, this was definitely at par, though. So I couldn't say, like, oh, that was bad, but I'm not going to sit here and say, man, that really brought it up a notch from the year before. And I think it does involve, well, a crowd does help in a Rumble. Like, that's almost your 31st member of the Rumble is the crowd.
Wonderful way of putting it. And, I think it's what I tweeted. It was a wonderful Royal Rumble event. Every match was good. Even when they made mistakes, so what? Who cares? They looked good and everything worked out the way it was supposed to. The stories were good. Like, it was a nice Sunday night of wrestling. And you know what? In today's climate, when I can say I enjoyed my time watching a pay-per-view, that's a home run to me.
That also helps is that every match on the card was good. Every single one from the World Heavyweight Champion. I love the opening. I love a good Goldberg quick match because I think that's where he's at his best. And to have Drew go over, that was huge. The Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns match was mwah, French kiss.
Yep.
Everything on the card was really solid. So like there was never a dull moment on that card where you're like, man, like this is dragging. Like it was overall the Royal Rumble pay-per-view itself was great. The Royal Rumbles were very good.
Yeah, Sasha and Carmella had a really nice match. Carmella almost killed herself and yet bounced back and finished off that match really well. Obviously, star-making appearances by Rhea and by Bianca, and then established stars versus soon-to-be stars in the Royal Rumble, and Christian coming back. I mean, there was something amazing about that, and the genuine feeling you got from both Jay and Adam at that time. You know, not Christian and Edge, but the two dudes, like, it was really special, and that's something that you don't get. The Royal Rumble always has great moments, but every once, you know, there's a lot of times where there's a big space in between special moments, and the fact that we've had so many so close together, including Edge and then Edge and Christian, like, I think to me that's the story beyond the winners and how wonderful the whole pay-per-view was. The Edge and Christian gift that will live on forever. I think that's kind of the stamp on this Royal Rumble.
Me, because I'm a huge Damian Priest mark. I obviously he's a Puerto Rican boy just like us, and we love that. But he's great. He's a big man. He's got this machismo like Razor Ramon. He can wrestle. He's got the Bad Bunny rub.
Yep.
He's got the Edge rub. Like I'm so excited, and he killed it in the Rumble. And it's like Bully says, like look who they eliminated. He eliminated Kane after Kane went on a tirade, and you know Kane is definitely older. But for us wrestling fans, we know, hey, that means something. Like, Kane's still a badass. Like, if you go over on Kane, it's because they want you to be a monster.
Do we want to talk about the ignorance of people hating on Bad Bunny?
Established that wrestling, like, a big part of wrestling fans is very much old school NASCAR fans, where they don't establish that this is a worldwide entertainment thing. It's not just your small bubble anymore. So, like, this is world entertainment. That's why they have brands in 7 countries and they tour the world, not just the United States. And I mean, that's in general with any entertainment. Like, we're not just playing to an American audience, we're playing to a worldwide audience. And that's all bit of sports and entertainment. And there's still a minority that doesn't realize that not everything is for you, or not everything is, so it should touch you, but you should know it's important. And I think it's like we use Ryan Sen, where he's like, I'm not a Bad Bunny fan, but I know this is important. I know that number wise, he's the number 1 artist in the world right now.
Yeah, Spotify most downloaded.
He's not an American. Yep.
And it's this idea of I love wrestling fans. We're wrestling fans. But like, there's no pleasing them. If it's a part-timer, if it's a guy coming back, if it's somebody from MMA, if it's somebody that has a last name, there's always a reason why not to like somebody or why they're infiltrating. It's like, Bad Bunny's a wrestling fan. Yeah, he may not be a super mark like some of us, but Bad Bunny is a Grammy winning, VMA winning. He's the number 1 artist on Spotify, most downloads around the world. Like, this is good for your company. Now, yeah, here's what wrestling fans don't have. I think 35 years in the making, they still don't understand this. Going on 36. WrestleMania is not for us. Not anymore. The original WrestleManias were. That's not for us diehard fans. That's for the mainstream fans. That's for sports and entertainment. That's the Super Bowl. You know, the Super Bowl isn't meant for the hardcore football fan. Week 2 of the NFL is meant for the hardcore football fan. You see, like, and I think wrestling fans don't understand how big of a deal it is when you do get a Bad Bunny. You know, but they'll be happy if you get Fred Durst. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand wrestling fans sometimes.
Well, no, and that's like you said, they don't get it. And it's like, you know, let's be honest, Bad Bunny is, for a celebrity, he's kind of a mark. And
totally.
So for me, I'm like, dude, I know, because I like Bad Bunny. So I know, I'm like, no, Bad Bunny's like Stephen Amell. Like, he's a legit wrestling fan. Or Jimmy Fallon or Stephen Colbert. Like, no, they're not just like celebrities who like, this was a good ops. No, they're fans. Like, they like this stuff. Like, they grew up with this stuff. He's a good old Hispanic kid. He grew up watching wrestling.
I mean, I just think about, like, if we ever hit a level that we would ever be invited to do something like that, and people would be like, what are these guys coming in to do? And it's like, man, like, we're just so quick to judge as a community, I think. And, like, this is coming from people who also cover Star Wars.
Exactly. And I think it's crazy. And, like, the Puerto Rican audience is so huge, too. Like, Pedro Morales was the second biggest draw back in the day next to Bruno Sammartino, the heel he ran with.
I take it all back. Damian Priest and Bad Bunny can eat my butthole because Carlito is the true Puerto Rican king. Holy swollenness, Alex.
Man, he looks great. I wish they would do something with him. And, like, obviously, I think they are going to do, like, at least maybe like a Shelton Benjamin type role where, like, he can do a little bit putting over. He's in great shape. But, yeah, I missed him. I love Carlito. Carlito's one of my favorites. Obviously, again, I'm a mark for the Puerto Rican wrestlers and because they're talented.
Be 100%. How many reface app deep fakes did you put your face over Carlito's body?
That was my body. They actually used my body to deep fake.
Good brother, before I let you go, you're making me sick. Super Bowl Sunday is here. It's one of our favorite days because we get to eat food, watch some sports, and make fun of everybody doing bad prop bets because we're going to lose money as well. Obviously, on Sports from the Couch, we're going to have everybody's predictions. We're going to have my thoughts on it. I'm going to let you know what I'm betting on, what I think you should bet on if you have a couple bucks to spare, and how Super Sunday will play out between GOAT and Baby GOAT, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Buccaneers, Chiefs, a chance at history. But good brother, feet to the fire. How are you feeling about Super Sunday? How does it play out? Let us know. Let us go. It is Super Week.
Tommy Brady is going to win his, 7th Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And first with a different team. So, yeah, I'm going to go with me some Tommy Brady.
Give me a score.
Score, I'm going to go 31-28.
Who wins the MVP?
Tom Brady.
You got Tom Brady winning the MVP. You got Buccaneers. You got Tom Brady winning the MVP. Do you think we're going to see a crazy play like one of those David Tyree, anything like that?
From Travis Kelce.
Ooh, okay. All right. And final one, pop culture related. What commercial are you excited about? Do you think we get a surprise commercial, a sneak drop? What do you think is going to happen in this, the first, maybe only ever Super Bowl during a pandemic? 25,000 people still in the stadium, but on your TV screen, what do you think you're going to see?
Kind of hard because the trailers have already been out there, so you haven't been hearing about new trailers because they're not releasing new movies.
Right.
So I could see maybe a Fast and Furious because I think that'll hit theaters this summer. I could see I could guess, if I had to put a wild guess out there, I think we're going to get an announcement about Black Widow. I still don't think it's going to streaming. I think they're going to finally put it on VOD or theaters.
Sounds good, good brother. Thank you so much, my man, for jumping onto Zoom. We know you are over here mentoring the youths of America, and we appreciate every time you're able to take a few minutes with us to talk about the thing we love, and that is pop culture. Good brother, any final thoughts for your people?
No, just have a good weekend. Stay warm. It's a chill front coming to Illinois.
Absolutely, and you can stay warm by listening to past episodes of The Good Brothers while you're getting ready for Super Sunday. Please be safe, guys. The Good Brothers on Twitter at Mercado21Alex, Instagram Mercado2121. I'm on Twitter at Mike at Media, Instagram Mike Mercado Media, and the show's on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. We have a Patreon, Mercado Airwaves. You guys can support us there. YouTube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network, and you can like, rate, review, and shares wherever you get your favorite podcasts at Mercado Airwaves. For the good brother himself,
Adios.
He's Alex Mercado. I'm Mike Mercado. We love you. Enjoy Super Bowl Sunday. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We will see you next time here on The Good Brothers.
Thanks for joining us here on The Good Brothers, here on Mercado Airwaves.